Welcome to the Sales Nerds, the people who are trying to save the galaxy one sale at a time by being the superheroes of the sales community, or at least their sidekicks.
Good morning, sales ninjas, sales nerds. Waze says I have about 7 minutes before I hit my destination, so this is going to be a short and sweet video for you, but super impactful. So we're going to talk about the 3 R's of getting rapport. So have you ever had that client that you just couldn't find the chink in the armor, there was no personal relationship at all. It's purely transactional. They just had a wall up. This is going to help with those folks. And by the same token, you've probably had that customer that for whatever reason, you can't keep them on topic. They're talking for half an hour about stuff that is totally off topic, and you're not even sure if you can help this client. So this technique will help with those folks as well. So the 3 R's. The first R is recognize. So what you've got to do is recognize the option, the possibility that there is some personal relationship. So anytime the customer says anything that's non-transactional, meaning they talk about their kid, they talk about retirement or work or their car or their dog or their hobby, anything that is non-transactional, just the faintest hint of it, right? So you've got to find whatever it is that they mention, right? And then you harp on it and say, oh, well, that's fantastic. So you first deal, though, you've got to listen twice as much as you speak. So once you're listening, you can hear those telltale signs of the mention of something outside of the transaction there. So that's the recognize portion of it. Next, you've got to relate to the customer. So what you need to do is relate to the customer in a way that says, yes, I recognize who you are, what you said, and we're similar, right? So you build that bond. So customer mentions that they want to retire in 7 years. All you have to do is say, hey, that's fantastic. I'm still 20 years away off myself. I hope that in 20 years, though, I'm in a similar situation to you, because I think it would help out. So once you've done that, then they understand how old you are. You have the same fears that they do about retirement, or maybe you could say something like, hey, you know what, I mentioned, I saw my aunt go through the same thing, and I hope that, we plan better for you. Something along those lines, right? So you relate to them in some fashion. They may go on for a little bit. You may ask a quick follow-up question. So tell me more about that, or why is this important to you now? Something like that, right? And then you've related to them. They understand. You heard their concerns. You asked them a follow-up question. You put yourself in a similar situation, and then you return. You go back to the conversation. And like Jordan Belfort's straight line theory, same kind of scenario here. The further off track you get, if you want to go from here to here, right, straight line, and your customer goes off on a tangent up here, you got to bring them back down to the straight line to keep them on point. So depending on the customer, I'll use a line like, hey, it sounds like we could have a cup of coffee at some point in time here, and I bet you've got lots of stories to share. I know your time is valuable. Let's make sure that we keep you on task here, though, and get you back to work or to your life or whatever it is that's important to your customer then, right? So at that point in time, you've recognized that there's an opportunity to build rapport. They've shared something personal with you that was outside of the transaction. You've related to them via yourself, via a third party, like an aunt or an uncle, if the experience hasn't hit you, or you've asked a follow-up question that says, hey, why is that important right now? So if they talk about it for just a minute, and then you return. And here's the tricky part. So there was the return back to the conversation, back to your sales process, whatever it is you're selling. You got to get back there. Don't let your customer go off for a half an hour. Some people think that the more they talk, the more they like you, and that's true to a certain extent, but you're still there to accomplish a task, a goal. And if they get so far out of the sales transactional mode, then they forget why they were there too, and they're not in the mode to buy. So you got to return, but still keep that sense of familiarity, right? Because that's how you build rapport. It's the familiarity. Because let's face it, salespeople are strangers, right? They don't know us from anybody, from Adam. We're complete strangers, whether in person or over the phone. We have a very short amount of time to build up that relationship. And some of that is by frequency of contact, right? So we want them to use our names a couple of times. And some of that is by building up that rapport by asking questions and saying that, hey, we're just like you. People have this fear of, especially over the phone, of like an online transaction or an impersonal transaction. And that's simply not true. Like, we're real people. Like, there's not a computer at the other end of the phone call. Like, we're a real person. We work in a real office. We're talking on a real phone, and we really help people. Really. So let your customers know that you're a real person. Because I promise you, no matter what industry you're in, you are the secret sauce. You are the reason that people buy from you. It's not because of, granted, hopefully you have a great product, but they buy because you actually listen, you get to know them, and you build up a little bit of a personal relationship in a short amount of time. So use those 3 tactics. Recognize, relate, return, get back to your sales process, build up rapport, you'll sell well, the company will be happy, you'll be happy, most importantly, your customers will be happy. So my name's Sundance, I'm the Sales Nerd. Have a great day, and I'm about to pull up into my office, so adios.